Welcome to Apostates on the Fringe, a podcast brought to you by the Atheist Society of Knoxville, where we bring you news from a leftist perspective. I'm Sam.
Dustin.
Alistair.
And this week I'm drinking a Bear Walker ale with maple syrup. It's by the Jackalope Brewing Company. I think they're out of Tennessee. Don't know where exactly.
Bear Walker, how is it?
It's all right.
Not
as
how
fancy as last
syrup?
week.
How much like maple syrup?
It's there. It's just the right amount of sweetness, not too much.
Okay. This week I went to my normal liquor store and I saw this and I couldn't not get it. It's called a Shake Chocolate Porter. And I also got it because it's from Boulder Beer Company, outer Boulder. I was like, yeah, those cats need some money right now. Those poor people. It's I would say that it's all right. The chocolate taste, it's more of an aroma than it is like the taste of it. Like I could smell it as I'm going to drink it, which I will do right now while Hal tells us theirs.
I am drinking Pontoon Brewing honorary Girl Scout Tagalong cookies.
Tagalong cookies. What's your favorite Girl Scout cookie?
Thin Mints.
Sam?
Probably Tagalongs, so I'm kind of curious.
It's really sweet.
Yeah, I would figure.
It is so fucking sweet.
That's a sweet beer?
Can you taste like the peanut butter in it as it comes through?
Yeah, Tagalongs are my second favorite, I think, because I do like peanut butter and chocolate a lot.
I like Tagalongs, but I also love Samoas. Like those are some.
Yeah, those are good.
But I love pineapple. Or sorry, coconut. Pineapple. Okay.
I mean, it's got a good flavor, but the sweetness is like it's
getting a little much.
It's almost like thick like syrup.
Okay. So when you have Thin Mints, do you freeze them?
Yeah.
Before you eat them? Okay.
Yeah. How else do you eat them?
I just want to make sure you were following the protocol.
Right.
Because we have a few stories we're going to get into today, but before we get into the more serious topics, let's talk about how Lil Nas X pissed off a bunch of conservative Christians this week.
You know, I remember when Old Town Road came out, and it's like, yeah, it's pretty cool. I like that. He's made it over to the country charts. Didn't pay too much attention. I'm not that big of a fan of country. Holy shit, did he catch my attention?
That video.
The video is amazing.
It really is.
And the video is timed with the shoes that there's...
It's call Me By Your Name.
Call Me By Your Name, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Have you not seen it yet?
The shoes?
No, the video.
The video.
Oh, no, I haven't watched the video.
I
just
watched
from what I've gotten from memes.
I watched it for the first time yesterday.
I'm enjoying the discourse around it, but I highly doubt I'm going to be into the song.
It's really good.
But more power to him. I don't know. I don't like... I'm sure it's like rap pop, and there's no way I'm going to like it.
It's...
Yeah,
it's got my attention to, like, I listened to it a few times because I was watching the video. The video is what you really need to watch.
Okay.
The video's fantastic. As someone who enjoys cinema,
I've seen enough clips.
The video is fantastic.
But, like, after watching the video a few times, it's just fucking in my head all the time.
I mean, I kind of want to talk about the video, but he hasn't seen it. But I mean, there's
Go ahead.
No, we're talking
I've
about
seen
it.
And he gives Satan the lap dance.
He does. So he's ascending to heaven, and all of a sudden, like, this pole comes, and then he just stripper pole slides down this pole that goes into hell, and then gives the devil a lap dance.
A very hot one.
Very.
He looked really good
sexy,
going down that stripper pole too.
Yeah, it's fit. Gave a very sexy lap dance before killing the devil and taking the crown as his own.
Yeah.
He had a tweet about that, didn't he? He said something about like if they're going to put me in or say I'm going to hell, at least I'm going to be a king. Or something similar to that.
God, his Twitter has
his Twitter has been very active lately.
He knew what he was doing. He knew he'd be pissing people off.
The Christian. Did you see that sermon that he retweeted?
Oh yes, he's okay. As a troll, I really appreciate him because it's no different than when I'm trolling and I'm like seeing everybody's outrage over it. Like it entertains me. This is, that just is going to feed into me more when I see that. And he is thoroughly enjoying the outrage.
Oh, because he's retweeting like the actual fucking sermon, and like they had a graphic and everything. Like they put a whole segment into Lil Nas X and demonism and demonology or whatever. I mean, it was hilarious. And then those shoes are fantastic. The demon shoes.
Yes.
I'm sure everyone here knows about them, but they were kind of like redesigned Nikes, Nikes that were then turned red, with a drop of human blood from the team that was developing them.
And
they had a
Bible
pentagram
verse.
There's a Bible
Luke,
verse.
I can't remember the actual verse, but it's the one talking
10,
about
11,
Satan ascending from heaven like lightning.
Right.
So.
And then the pentagram that was kind of laced into or sewn in through the lace.
Right.
And so they created 666 of those, which sold out instantly.
Yeah.
I mean, they were high priced too. They were over $1,000.
Oh yeah, it was
I'm sure most of them are being
2013,
scalped.
2018.
I'm sure they're even
I
more now.
don't know, man. If I could have gotten one of those pair of shoes, he was gonna do the little you retweet. You could win it in the last pair. Fucking, I retweeted. Hell yeah. But like, if I got those things would never be touched. They'd be for display only.
Yeah. So the team, the MSCHF, was one that he collaborated with to produce those, and I kind of with Sam. I think that not all of them were scalpers. I know a lot of them were, but I guarantee you we're going to see some of these on eBay, especially with the lawsuit that Nike has presented.
Right.
Let's talk about that lawsuit.
Man, those things are going to be.
So because of the lawsuit, they couldn't ship out. Nike had an injunction, and they're like, "Sorry, bro, we shipped them all out except for this last one." So they could not ship out their 666, which they were going to do. They were going to give away for the retweet, but they had to cancel those plans due to the lawsuit. So no shoe for you, Alistair.
He did put the check mark on it. Like he did, literally put Nike's brand on it.
He did not put it on there. He redesigned Nike shoes, which under
I've
fair use.
I've seen a picture of the shoes, and
It was their shoe, and they just
okay.
He redesigned it. They
Okay.
redesigned it. I think
yeah.
the company is like pronounced Mischief.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Hey, how did I miss that?
So yeah, I did not see the original shoe, but we do have fair use laws in the United
That it's
States where even
transformative?
if it's like, my kid actually told me about a instance of somebody else. They had the name brand on there and they got sued for it, but they had redesigned it, and so they did not win that lawsuit. So I don't.
Well, here's another thing, is that Mischief, and thank you for giving me that, so I wasn't giving its initial, had responded to Nike saying, like, yeah, but you didn't say shit in 2019 when Jesus shoes came out. And so Nike's like, oh, right. And so they're thinking about amending their lawsuit to include the Jesus shoes in there just to be able to proceed with this lawsuit.
Good, Nike pissed Christians off even more. They've already burned.
They already
their
fucking
shoe.
do. They already burned it. They already burned their shit because of Colin Kaepernick. So, but I love the satanic panic that came out of like all of this, and of course he's just eating it up.
It's always there. It's always been there. The satanic panic, like it's the same people who were throwing a fit with the Satanic Children's Ministry and all the other stuff. It's been going around. QAnon has actually made it worse because there's a satanic cabal. So like that's been feeding into it. So the satanic panic is rebuilding and has been rebuilding for I'd say at least 2 years now. And it does that kind of, pushes it up a bit because it feeds into the Christian paranoia that this stuff is really happening, even though us rational people can look at it and fucking say that's hilarious,
Right.
But
I mean, to be fair, fuck it, you rely on satanic panic, and so do other members of the satanic temple.
That's the whole point, is to grab onto that, and that's even what
Right.
Even Nas has said that especially the queer population, they're already being told they're going to hell, so they embrace it. That's what we've done. We've embraced.
he said, he's like, you guys did this to me, essentially.
Yeah, he said, you guys made me hate myself. Now you get to hate.
Yeah, he's like, I'm glad you hate it. Keep on hating it. I hope it makes you feel the hate that you made us feel for ourselves. Essentially,
right.
Paraphrasing.
That was a very good tweet. That made a lot of headlines, actually. Of course, I mean, it is circulating news, but to an extent, it is also a valuable tool because that's how we can get Christians to stop doing what they're doing sometimes by saying, well, fine, we'll just put Satan over there. And then they're like, oh, okay, cancel everything because
Makes them look absurd.
they're so terrified of having anything satanic involved.
Seems like Mischief probably was already aware of the Jesus shoes, and they knew that if Nike tried to sue, well, we'll just come back with this.
When I heard about the lawsuit, I was imagining, like, I can't imagine that attorneys weren't at least
they were prepared,
or at least consult with attorneys before even doing this, so to make sure that they would be clear legally. I think the lawsuit is simply Nike telling Christians, we had nothing to do with this, and this is how I'm proving that we're suing them because it tarnished our image, is what Nike's saying.
Yeah,
caving to the Christian right.
I think it's interesting to note that you were talking about when Old Town Road came out. He wasn't out of the closet back when that song was released, too. That a lot of his career, and even through some of his popular songs, he was closeted. He came out sometime after Old Town Road, I think.
Very shortly after.
Yeah.
He was outed by someone else, I believe.
Yeah,
wow.
And I think that's when you started seeing, like, I made some posts that got me in trouble with idiots on Facebook for saying that country music was inherently racist in its current form.
I remember that post. That was fun. And I followed that train wreck for a while.
And one of my points was the way that they were like, "Oh, cool, Old Town Road's cool," and then he comes out, and then they immediately took it. They're like, "This song's not country enough," and they took it off the charts.
Yep.
And all that happened after he came out as gay.
Do you guys remember "Take Me to Church"?
Yeah.
That same video. The video itself was more so than the actual song itself, but I know that kind of got some backlash too.
That was my ringtone for the longest time.
It's a good song, man.
It's
a good song.
He's just a great artist. His entire album, like all the albums that I've heard of his, are just
powerful
amazing.
Video. That was a very powerful video.
Yeah.
But I mean, Sam, you've done yourself a disservice by not watching the "Call Me by Your Name" video in full, because artistically, it's fucking well done. The costumes and hair and that is fantastic. The lap dance is amazing.
The lap dance and that ride down the stripper pole, man. He's a very attractive man, though. I keep watching his videos because I've been like obsessing over him the last couple of days, following his TikTok and Twitter. But yeah, he's just a very attractive guy, and his personality makes him even more adorable, in my opinion.
There was a meme I saw on Reddit, and it was a juxtaposition that had Ruby Rod, Chris Tucker's character from Fifth Element, with that hairstyle he had, and then Lil Nas X with his really luxuriously done hair, and it said Ruby Rod walks so Lil Nas X can run. The hair stylist in that was great. The visuals were fantastic. Like, they spent some money on that. I know they did.
Just to piss off some Christians.
Hey, I'm down for pissing off Christians.
I mean, yeah, if that's what's the hit pop culture thing to do is to piss off Christians, then we need more of it.
It's like the tweets coming out of it. Like one of them telling Christians, you kept telling him to go to hell, or that he was going to go to hell, and now he did, and you're pissed off about it. Like, at this point in time, like, he's faced enough shit for being gay that he's like, fuck you, I'm now unapologetically.
Yeah, exactly.
And he, like, yeah. And
Just as we do with Satanism, we latch on to it because they can't use it as a weapon anymore. That's my favorite stage of queerdom, is when people hit the unapologetically queer and they're out and they give zero fucks anymore, because it's great to see.
Well, it's also great marketing, because as we all know, the religious nuns, those that are affiliated with religion, are the fastest growing group in America right now. Pew Research just released a poll that 47, now for the first time in over 80 years, for the first 47% of Americans, so under 50% of the population, is now 47%, do not belong to a church.
It's good news, but it's like I've been saying too, the reason why we see so many more extremists, because a dying animal is most dangerous.
That's true. And some of those that aren't going to church right now, it was probably brought on by COVID. But I still bet that there are a good number of those people that, now that they're coming out of COVID, they're not gonna
I think the
Go back.
question
I think
posed.
the crazy nuts still went to church and they still had Zoom church. And
Yeah,
all this
those
other
people
shit.
stayed.
No, I think the question posed to them is like, were you or did you belong, or like pre-pandemic, or I'm not sure how or when the poll was conducted, but yeah, I think one of the best things about that stat is that the churches are losing money. I mean, just because I think a lot of churches, they don't use that money for giving back to the community or providing
no, it's the preacher's new car.
Yeah, you see several stories where, and it's a lot of mega churches, they especially them, but even some smaller churches where they pay the salaries and they pay for their cars or their housing,
Right.
and they're using it to supplement their income. And
Be
a lot
their
of seed
whole
faith,
income.
and a lot of seed faith out there. I had
Yeah.
an employee that went to church who put in seed money and would budget for that, and I'm like, don't do that.
What's seed money?
And so seed money, it's prosperity gospel.
Oh, okay.
So that's it's where you give 30%, and God will reward you with 120% of your faith. And it really is that.
You
And
should
so
tell them, oh, well, if it doesn't matter to God, I'm just going to literally bury that back in my yard. He's like, oh, no, you have to give it to me.
and so
No, I'm just going to throw it in the trash.
You're a fan of John Oliver. I would recommend. You're a fan of John Oliver. I'm
Yeah.
surprised. Did you see that special? The
Our
prosperity?
Lady of Perpetual Exemptions.
Our Lady of Perpetual Exemptions. Unfortunately, that phone number is no longer active, but that was really good. That was a really good segment on prosperity gospel that John Oliver did, and I tried to get her to watch that because, like, I don't care if someone's religious to an extent, but they were my employee, wasn't exceptionally well paid at the time. And I know there are situations that they didn't live they didn't have a luxurious life at all, but they're giving a lot of their money away because they think that they're going to be rewarded. So I tried to at least resolve that situation, and I think I made some headway, and they stopped doing that.
That's good. I mean, that shit, it exploits people that are already struggling.
Absolutely.
Oftentimes.
Didn't you guys see at the beginning? We didn't have the podcast going at the time. Otherwise, we would have fucking ranted probably for the whole show. It was when the first round of stimulus came out. They said, don't pay your rent. Send it to God, and He will reward you. Did you see that? Did you see that video?
I'm on board with the don't pay your rent. I was totally on board with that, but it was for different reasons. But yeah, it wasn't a give it to me instead. It
Right,
was
he's like,
we need to do something about this.
Yeah,
but
that pissed me off so much. That was probably the grossest thing I'd ever heard.
Yeah.
Was when people were needing help the most, the churches were trying to convince their members to give it to them because God would reward them instead. And that pissed me off so damn much.
people were receiving letters from their churches for not tithing during the pandemic. It's just fucking ridiculous. It's feed me.
There was a church that had a list of non-tithers that went to church but did not do their 10%, and they shamed them on a public wall of people who did not. And I went to a church here, and I had to go to a security conference.
Maybe we should do that for Ask. We need to start getting ideas.
You're right.
Prosperity Ask.
So I had to go to a church in Knoxville for a security conference with. Do you guys ever watch Catch Me If You Can? It's a movie with Tom Hanks.
I don't know if I ever watched it.
So it's based on the life of Frank Abagnale Jr., who was now a consultant for the FBI because of like how good he was at being a fraudster. So he now consults them. He held a security conference, and I work for a bank, so I went to that. Very cool guy, very good speaker. Fucking ATM, like in the church. I never seen that before, and that blew my mind.
And they just have an ATM there.
They have an ATM there, ready just to get people's money. It's the sickest thing.
It's like worse than like an ATM in a strip club or something.
I would really hope, after how churches behaved during the pandemic, that people would leave the church. People would recognize, like, this is really fucked up. I lost my job. My wife lost her job. We're struggling to feed our kids, and the fucking church wants our money?
Unfortunately,
you're only suffering because you're not giving them enough.
Well, and they probably justify it with, well, the church provides a food pantry, so, we can get our food there if we give them our money.
Unfortunately,
I bet you somebody has said that.
No, I think it's more that they're just guilted into it or they won't get into heaven.
So there was a comment, someone had said, they had updated a story on Facebook that they are cancer. Someone is now cancer free, and this is how I know that churches will always exist, because even after over 540,000 deaths to COVID is now the third leading cause of deaths in the United States. A comment that said, "My God never fails. To God be all the glory." I'm like, he kind of failed horribly with 2.5 million deaths of COVID.
No, that was man-made error
from China.
No. From Trump.
Right. They're still trying to argue that it came from a lab and now instead of from species to human.
Yeah, and they're now saying, like, the real scientists are now saying that it didn't even come from one of the markets, but some other, like a petting zoo or some shit like that. I don't know.
Since we've kind of randomly segued from Lil Nas X to COVID, let's talk about Tennessee and the little...
the libertarian capital.
The anti-vax or COVID-vax. I don't know if they're anti-vax period or just anti-COVID-vax.
I'm sure
they're
protesters. I guess they stormed the Capitol.
They did. They made it inside the Capitol, and it pisses me off quite a bit because I was in Nashville a good bit this summer with People's Plaza, and we weren't even allowed to like really step foot on the Capitol grounds. We had to stay across the street at the plaza that they renamed to us before I even got involved. They renamed it Ida B. Wells Plaza. But so we actually had an action one day where we, the sidewalk in front of the Capitol building, that's taxpayers. That's our property.
Right, naturally.
So we're gonna go over there and we're gonna stand on the sidewalk. And there's a wall in front of it, and there's probably, I'd say 80 to 100 or more people standing along these walls. And the cops didn't say anything. They stood in front of us. They eventually said, if you guys step off of this wall onto the sidewalk of the Capitol building, you will be arrested. We kind of stood up there for a while, and then one by one, people started stepping down. A friend of ours got arrested that day.
Yeah, I saw that.
Along with over 50 fucking people.
Again,
I live streamed this. Nobody was doing anything. It was simply standing on the sidewalk, and people got arrested, over 50 people, but yet that small crowd, because it was much smaller than ours, was able to make it inside the Capitol building.
And Sam, why were they there?
They were there because they were protesting mandatory vaccinations.
And that isn't a thing.
Which wasn't real.
There's no talk of mandatory vaccinations, nothing.
So we were talking about satanic panic earlier, and a lot of these people believe that the COVID vaccine is a step going towards the mark of the beast, and only those that have that will be able to function in society.
I mean, I'll have to tell you, I've felt like a beast since I got mine. So
yes, all of us have had our first shot. We've all had Moderna. It's very exciting.
That's how we can be in a room together.
Act like
we're 6 feet apart.
We actually do maintain 6 feet while we're in the studio.
They don't know. We could have masks on.
Well, they know now.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate that. But I don't understand. Like, there's no evidence that any state or government was going to mandate that, and yet they're out there probably maskless too. They were maskless, weren't they?
Oh, yeah.
Of course. They don't believe in it. See, they think it's all fake anyway, so just made up so that they can get you the vaccine.
So I had
the Bill Gates 5G implant.
I had a friend today post about an EMT that came to her house, or a paramedic. They had like a Punisher patch on their uniform.
God, they so misunderstand the fucking Punisher.
It's like, have you actually read that?
But this woman thought her grandmother was having a stroke, and she had just gotten one of the vaccines. I don't know which one. And this fucking paramedic goes in and tells her grandmother That the vaccine is experimental and it's likely what's causing the issues, and this is a reaction. It's not approved by the FDA.
They actually did so when I got my vaccine. They made that very clear. Like they had an info sheet they gave you that they repeated several times. This is not approved by the FDA, but was an emergency. I guess emergency allowed. I'm not sure the term because I don't.
They didn't do all that for me.
Yeah, they did it for me. Did you got Moderna?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
My arm hurt like a bitch for 2 days.
Holy shit! Well, I had gotten into the
period.
I got in the wreck. I totaled my car. Well, we would have been recording last Thursday, but
right, we had to record early because of the board meeting.
Yeah, but that's the day that I totaled my car. Not my fault. Ironically, someone else was running from the cops, and I just got in their way on accident.
You stopped a fleeing fugitive.
Yes, and I'm really sad about that. I mean, if he would have sent me a bat signal, I would have held traffic for him. But anyway, I totaled my car, and immediately after it happened, I posted on Facebook because I was heading to get my shot, and I was showed a picture of my car. I'm like, could somebody take me to get my vaccine? The whole time I'm like, I am not fucking missing this vaccine appointment.
Right.
But the only pain I felt after totaling my car was my arm hurt from that damn shot.
It's so it wasn't horrible pain for me, but it was very centralized to exactly where that spot was.
It was my whole bicep up here.
And I was holed up with chills, sweating my ass off all night last night.
You
had it.
You had
COVID,
have it.
So you had COVID. I've heard that. Now I'm getting ready. I will probably be taking the day off the next day after I get my second round because I heard that one I will be what you had.
Right, I'm taking.
Have fun.
I'm already planning on taking the day off after my second shot.
I mean, yeah, I'm hoping my second shot isn't worse.
But yeah, back to these. So these assholes. I mean, but ultimately we were fine. I was just some muscle
I'm
cramps.
proud of most of my friends. I'm watching on Facebook. Everyone's like, oh, a lot of my friends have gotten this week. I think a lot of people have gotten up and got it and are ready for this shit to be over.
Well, to be fair, we're atheists, and a lot of our friends might.
Even my other groups of friends, which are a bunch of hippy dippy people. I have a number of groups of friends, and it's very weird because half of them are hippy dippy, frou frou, and then the other half are really rational.
So because I saw a study that said that at least 90% or higher of atheists are going to get the vaccine or think it's something that is safe and effective, while as conservative Christians that is much, much, much lower.
Yeah.
Surprise!
Biden increased the goal to 200 million in his first 100 days. Now, as it stands, he's below that curve, or the goal is below that curve. The current progress is, but with the current rate of vaccines going out now, which is still over 2 million a day, it is on track to beat that. So he went from the initial goal of 100 to 150 to 200. And I'm not the biggest fan of Biden, but they came in with no plan. They came in and saw there was no plan.
Yeah, Trump.
They started pouring money into it.
Plan.
And not only did he start with 100, move to 150, he's like, fuck it, we'll go 200. And they're on track to do that.
He had to. I mean, there's.
Well, they had to with the
Imagine if Trump had actually won what
he
position
didn't
we'd
have
be in.
to because Trump
we would be fucking stabbing each other in the street to get a vaccine. If Trump had been there,
the Democrats would be dead.
Yeah,
he had to.
And this infrastructure bill that's being pumped out. your fucking Facebook post. Someone had said that this was money laundering or something like that.
Yeah, I ventured into the QAnon communities last night.
Why do you do this to yourself?
To bring it to the viewers.
Some of it is so fucking funny, and then some of it I'm like, it pisses me off, and I wonder why the world is the way it is, and it's like a double-edged sword for me. It brings enjoyment, and then it also brings depression.
I mean, people aren't really that much smarter than when they lived in fucking caves. So What do you expect?
But yeah, it's the Biden's money laundering plan called infrastructure. It's like, oh no, we're
See, Republicans have never heard of infrastructure before.
Wow.
So they're not used to seeing that word. And they know from watching The Sopranos that the construction industry is full of mobsters. Obviously.
So I want to pick on Matt Gaetz because right now CNN sent me an alert, and like I was going to push Matt Gaetz until after we talked about the Derek Chauvin trial because we're going to talk about it for a while, but this just popped up and it's too delicious not to share. So thank you, CNN. It was a point of pride. Sources tell CNN the representative Matt Gaetz shared with lawmakers on the House floor nude photos of women he said he slept with.
So all of them are implemented in child pornography now. Cool.
Holy shit.
Did you see all the people dragging up all of his old tweets that were basically like, hey, let's fuck children? Like, he basically said it in tweets.
There should be no age restriction on sexy, as I think.
There's been a couple.
Yeah. He's like...
it's like this guy's been telling you. He's like, all right.
But his fucking defense...
So for our listeners, I'm sure they already know, but Matt Gaetz, a representative of Florida, I'm assuming, is under investigation for sex trafficking because I guess he was in a relationship with a 17-year-old and paid for them to move across state lines, paid for hotels and stuff.
Yeah, just travel with them. It wasn't moving, but it was...
That's what I mean, traveling. Sorry, paying for travel.
Oh, yes, the Weinstein.
And then... us rational people are like, wow, you're fucking gross. But then now we're seeing a lot of people, probably libertarians, coming out to defend the age of consent. And Al, I can see your...
Fuentes.
Hey, the free market dictates it's okay to fuck kids.
But he's done this before. The guy who runs America First, he's a fucking fascist. And I do not believe this is the first time when he's basically come out and said there should be no... fucking
age of consent.
And that's a few weeks ago. I think we were on the show talking about libertarians. We were talking about how they want to smoke weed and not pay taxes. And I added in, and they want to fuck 16 and 17-year-olds. This is why.
You showed me a tweet from a guy who was defending like the age of the consent. Like, well, it could be 16. And then like later on, he's like, yes, I'm a libertarian for those who are asking.
For those who are asking.
Because they're just fucking known for it. And we look at these Republicans that are getting busted with this shit, and it's projection.
Isn't that weird? Projection. QAnon is always saying it's the Democrats and Hollywood elites that are involved in child trafficking, and they're going to be, and the storm is coming to bring, and yet. And what was the thing? Let's check out QAnon this week.
But Gaetz fed into QAnon.
Right.
He was one doing that, and the other guy.
And now they're defending him now, saying that he's actually
the other guy that caused him to be looked at. I can't think of his name. I know he's blaming it. No, he's blaming it on David McGee.
Okay.
But there was another guy who was a tax collector down in Florida. They were investigating him, and somehow Matt Gaetz got brought into it. And
oh, that's right. I remember it because he was involved in an investigation with children from age 14 to 17.
Right.
I did see that. I don't remember his name though either.
I read in some article, I believe, that part of the stuff he's being investigated into is feeding false information out there, like with QAnon and stuff. So these people are fucking feeding QAnon this shit about Democrats being the pedophiles and this fucking satanic cabal trying to, wanting to rape children so they can get adrenochrome. It's being all fed to them by Republicans, and they don't get this.
And they also don't care when you show them.
Well,
it's not really about kids. The QAnon's never really been about pedophilia. They don't really give a shit.
But Matt Gaetz, so he's blaming it on David McGee, and who was he a Department of Justice director?
I believe so.
And so
he's saying he blackmailed him, saying that he said, "Give me $25 million, or I'll release this information about
these pictures and stuff." And his dad apparently, like the FBI, was investigating them. So he's calling on the FBI to release the tapes from the wire his dad was apparently wearing. And he's like, "Of course, New York Times or whoever broke the story."
It was New York Times.
Okay, New York Times released the story the day before the exchange was supposed to happen, or like he's building up another conspiracy theory, and QAnon's just fucking feeding right into it.
And QAnon thinks this is just a smear attempt for his potential 2024 run as well.
I mean, he'll probably survive it, knowing that party.
I don't know if he'll surprise the investigation. I don't know if he'll get through that.
I don't know if he will, because what was that Moore guy in Alabama? You know, he didn't win the election to a Democrat in Alabama.
Yeah.
In the special election. So when it comes at least to pedophilia, that's the one line that Republican voters,
they're libertarians or QAnoners.
I will say Republican voters, Republicans themselves can be pedophiles, and as we see, but they didn't vote for Roy Moore. I think is his name.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
But let's go back to Nick Fuentes, because you said fuck him earlier.
He's a piece of shit.
He's a piece of shit because he said that age of consent is a feminist social construct.
A feminist social construct.
Yeah, because he thinks that it's a slide on. It's older women are saying that. I didn't really listen that hard. I watched a video once.
Where did he say this on? He said
his fucking show.
His show, man.
Oh, okay.
He went on this long rant about how, what's the difference between fucking a 18-year-old and a 17-year-old? Are you really saying that the 18-year-old can make those decisions, but a 17-year-old can't? He's like, it's all just a feminist social construct. And yeah, he's advocating that because some states have the age of consent at 16 or 17. So, if it's okay there, it should be okay everywhere. No, just don't fucking do it.
So you guys want to cover a local story?
Yeah, I think Sam has more info on this.
I mean, we're a Knoxville show. I think we should talk.
Okay, so it was this week, Monday or Tuesday, that the board voted to strip away the powers from the Board of Health regarding mask mandates and.
Seems like it was done really sneakily too.
They had been saying that they were going to do it for a while.
They had
made their intentions pretty clear before. This is just them actually doing it.
So now the power basically resides in the Department of Health Director Buchanan.
Which basically means nothing because he doesn't give a shit. Because he doesn't give a shit, it basically comes down to the individual locations to run their own rules, basically.
Are there any elected officials named Buchanans that aren't like bastards?
That's the only Buchanan I know.
You don't know Pat?
Like every time
you're right. But so... There is no statewide mask mandate. Typically only the larger cities.
Tennessee is a libertarian's dream. We hear a lot of Republicans bitch that there's no real libertarian place, like we were saying about in our early episodes about Texas. That's another.
Shut the fuck up. We don't need more of them moving here.
No, either there or Texas. We're a libertarian dream state, where everything goes to the corporations, and the corporations can do anything, and they're in bed with. I would like to talk about the shit that's going on with the baseball stadium going down there too. That's a fucking jerk off handoff to.
Isn't that a laundering scheme? We think,
yeah,
or something.
Yeah.
They've pretty much proven that it is, but still nobody cares because we're libertarians' dream.
Randy Boyd
Randy Boyd. Yeah, it's our government just jerking off the biggest money spenders that own most of downtown.
So how soon do we think that the mask mandate for Knoxville will be lifted?
The what?
How soon do we think the mask mandate will be lifted?
Still, surprised we still have it.
I am
have it like in quotes, like it's never really been here in Tennessee.
Anywhere in Tennessee.
They actually use it to intimidate places they don't like too. Like that's pretty much what it's been. Like they don't like a location, then they'll be really hard on them. They like a location, then they're not going to.
In terms of enforcing like curfews and for like,
curfews and doing mask checks and like just normal shakedowns that you would expect.
So in Nashville, they issued the mask mandate.
Oh yeah, nothing. You see the footage of that every weekend. They're
right, but that's what's funny. You can go to any bar in Nashville and find all these people without masks, but the first person they decided to arrest for not having a mask was a black homeless man.
Yeah. See, exactly. I mean, that's they run their rules to support who they want, as with a lot of laws.
I don't understand why they even voted to restrict, like, to take the power away from the board of health. Like, that's kind of why they exist, is to now they're in an advisory only. So they could be like, hey, we all 8 agree that this is what science tells us. Now they can only say, you should maybe do this. And Buchanan can be like, nah.
Is the director, is that a elected position?
No, I've never voted for.
I mean, it's all about money.
I've never seen that on a ballot before. At least not that I can remember.
Not that I can remember.
I mean, I've lost all faith in this city. I'm sorry, but I have. After November, where we were literally the COVID capital of the entire fucking world,
actually,
which shows that my citizens are the stupidest and most selfish citizens in the whole fucking world, and I believe it.
I think part of it, though, is that Knox County blurs into Knoxville. There's no real, like, separation. It's all... So, like, Knoxville County is where all the fucking ignorant-ass people live,
Knoxville's
but they all come
tiny.
in here.
All the counties around us are fucking, like... That's one of the things about getting the vaccine. A lot of people have been going out of... Knoxville has been pretty good with getting the vaccine. It's actually been kind of hard to get it in the county, but you go to any other county, they're like, oh, well, I had a friend who, the doctor that gave him the vaccine literally said, oh, yeah, we have a lot of extra because everyone around here is an idiot. I think that was in Anderson County. But, the doctor literally said that to him.
But there's also tens of thousands who aren't going for their second as well, which is... problematic because the efficacy of the first shot, especially Pfizer and Moderna, aren't that great with just the single round, you idiots. But it wasn't just fucking... Tennessee embarrassed the shit out of me in November and December because not only was Knoxville number 1, but then Johnson City, Athens, several other counties were on the top 10 in the United States for COVID cases per capita.
And these aren't major cities, y'all. These are
Johnson City and
towns.
Knoxville are not. It's not Nashville. It's not Memphis. It has Knoxville itself has a population of 120 something thousand. Now, when you're looking at the metropolitan area of Knox County, that number goes to 800,000. Not that fucking large when you're talking. But Knoxville itself, the city, is not that large. It just blows my mind.
Well, Athens to make that though.
Athens to make
is
Johnson, and so
tiny.
Athens is tiny. And Johnson City is not that large either. But Athens is even smaller, and they were in the top 10 in the United States.
Yeah, which really shows you that they don't believe in it and are making no attempt at all.
Well, I've told you that before, I want to say episode 5, when we were talking about, avoiding downtown, avoiding certain areas, that Athens was by far the worst, and that showed when the cases started coming out because they just do They just do not wear masks. And I had to go today. Luckily, I've had my first round, so I'm somewhat protected. Of course, I do keep my mask on. But they don't, and they don't give a shit. And
I lived near Athens for about 5 years when the kid was little, like right outside of Cleveland. That entire area was fucking horrible.
Big KKK presence out in Athens.
Is also I've heard there's a lot of meth out there too. Like
there's a lot of meth in about anywhere.
I've heard like they are like the meth kind of capital area of.
Are you saying
areas
meth heads
in
aren't wearing
there?
Masks?
There are areas out there that I had black friends that would absolutely not go to those areas, like smaller towns out there. I just found that area, like, I was frustrated. I enjoy learning. Nobody there cared to learn anything. It just, everybody was just so content with where they were, and I was, and I'm like, I have to get the fuck out of this town.
The literacy rate there is pretty low.
In Athens.
Not lying. I'm not joking. Like, I do work in retail. I do deal with the public, and the majority of people, there's a large number of people who say, "Well, I can't write. I can't read or I can't write." When I have to have them do documentation. Like, can you fill that out for me? But they don't say that a lot. Their main excuse is, I forgot my glasses, because they don't want to say it out loud. But the literacy rate there is just that they don't learn there. I'm
sure they're great school systems.
Right. So so poor education leads to
What county is
poor education leads to more Republican voters.
I want to say it's in McMinn County.
There's not Rick Perry, but some Perry guy.
Don't act like there's not a direct representation of poor education and increased Republican voting force.
No, it's 100% correlation to that. When you look at the hardest right states and compare them with their ranking of education, well, Mississippi has been last for how long? And we know they're far right. Hell,
Education's always been a class structure, and then of course all the money goes to the private schools, and then the private schools are like the other kind of Republican. So pretty much education is always about making a conservative force in one way or the other. Either extremely uneducated, or you get like the Ben Shapiro, like educated, deceptive Republican type. The country club Republicans and the dirt farmer Republicans.
I don't understand. I don't understand poverty-stricken Republicans who continuously vote for policies that I guess because they
care more about racism than they do their own strife.
Well, I think it's also that they are told to hate something else instead of the main cause. They're like, hate the person that's.
I mean, we just discussed how they're less educated.
Yeah.
So their information is being fed to them. They're not looking into it themselves. They call YouTube research.
Right. Facebook.
Newsmax is real news.
But it's also, it feeds into their own bias.
That's also true.
It's deeper than that. Like,
that's very true. I agree. That confirmation bias sort of thing. They look for information for things that they kind of already believe, and they make the wrong enemy the enemy and vote for ways that unfortunately cripple the economy. I mean, I looked at
Donald Trump was a demagogue, and that's his force. Like, Republicans are demagogues.
Many times, like the left and the right, the core of what we're pissed off at is all the fucking same. It's the fact that we blame the system that's causing it while they blame minorities and anybody else.
And especially immigrants. That was one of the big things that ran on.
Well, I can't find a job because of affirmative action. I can't find a job because of immigrants. I can't
fuck 17-year-olds because of the feminists.
No, that's the libertarian. That's the libertarian, Sam, not the Republicans or conservatives.
There's not a whole lot.
Conservatives. They're all fascists in some way.
Yeah, I kind of view libertarianism as a form of like Republican in a way. Like it's a sublet
of it. Yeah, so, quick side note: did Mississippi ever vote to change their flag? Is there a new design yet?
Yeah, I think they have a new flag.
Okay, they did one that includes the "In God We Trust" in it, or whatever.
Yeah, they required that.
Like
they did a
contest.
They did a contest. Some of the submissions were fucking great. The best ones they did not pick.
Flaggy McFlagface.
Yeah, they had some really fucking good ones. You could tell there were some people submitting just to troll. But yeah, they had their state flower. I think they wanted an eagle in it, and the "In God We Trust" was like a mandatory. That was an absolute. You have to have "In God We Trust" on there.
We can't be progressive now.
You guys, if it wasn't in such poor condition, I was going to purchase we received, and I'm pissed at my employees who took it before I could because they didn't tell me they had it. There were two $100 bills and a $20 bill that were in 1946 before we started printing "In God We Trust" on there. And I wanted to go pick one up, but the one I know, the design was actually a very good design. It had the E pluribus unum, I think, on it still. But the last one they had was just in poor condition. But I look out for. I'm always on the lookout for stuff like that because, like, hey guys, it wasn't always a thing. You know, I prefer old. I mean, it means something more to me. I think as a country, you know, out of many one.
Right.
Than in God we trust because fucking Russia.
Because conservatives aren't going to like that. Out of many comes one, or whatever it is.
Out of many one.
Yeah, because that's welcoming refugees.
Except QAnon. Welcoming. No, except QAnon. Their new phrase, "Where we go one, we go all."
That's a little bit different, though. That just means them.
That's just them go.
It's so funny because one of my employees, his mother had put the hashtag WWA. Was it
WW1 WGA?
You're right, and he's like, I don't know what the fuck that means. And then I was like, I have no clue what that means. That's really weird. And the next day, I came across this Q article where someone was holding up this sign that had that, and I sent that to him. He's like, "Oh God, I hate my life." So he had no idea that his mom was a QAnon follower,
I feel
supporter.
So bad for so many people for shit like that. Like to see their family members like waste away into that. Like it's gotta fucking suck.
Yeah. I know we discussed the fallout from QAnon in our pilot episode. And we need to revisit. Have you guys been? I know we're back on the Q because fucking Q, it's just they have their fingers in fucking everything right now.
They won't go the fuck away.
Have you guys?
They're the Republican Party.
I haven't started watching the documentary on HBO yet.
Oh yeah, I've heard about it.
I watched
Is it actually
it.
good?
I haven't watched it yet. My friend stopped by. I saw my friend Saturday, and he talked about it, and I need to get into that. I did finally get around to watching the 2 South Park specials, the pandemic special and the vaccine special.
I didn't watch either
and
of those.
you'd mentioned it last week, Sam, before we started recording and passing. And so fucking Mr. Garrison was playing the role of the President Donald Trump. And so when he comes back to South Park to be a teacher, a QAnon called they were the White family, so the Whites have always supported you. Anyways, they go up to like, what do we do next? What's our plan? And he's like, he tells them to fuck off. He's like, blow shit out your dick hole. And he's like, blow shit out dick hole. That must mean something. And he goes back and draws up a board and shit of how that is like. It was like they took the first letters of each word and made it Latin, like do as he does or something like that. It was so funny how they're always looking for coded messages and shit like that. But so now they don't. Who do they have?
Let's get a Q version of Dan Brown novels.
Q hasn't posted as far as I know. But when I went diving into their little groups, I part of the reason I did is because of the Matt Gaetz stuff. But reading comment sections on Facebook, I kept seeing April 3rd mentioned, and I can tell, like, by context that some fucking QAnon shit. So I went diving, like, okay, what are they thinking is going to happen on April 3rd? So I went, like, scrolling through these QAnon groups, trying to find somebody who would, like, make an actual prediction for April 3rd. They don't even go that far yet. Now they're just like, April 3rd, something's going to happen. April 3rd. Everybody watch like April 3rd.
A really, really lame live-action role play. Seems like really bad LARPers.
Yeah.
That's basically what they are.
I'm going to get into the documentary because I'm really interested in it. I don't know I guess how it really got started. I know it was on 4chan, but I'm going to dig into it.
I only made it to the second episode, but they were insinuating the Ron and Jim Watson as Q. Mm-hmm. And I think it is one key thing. The QAnon posts, there's also, there seemed to be this obsession with pens.
Really?
Like the pictures, he would verify his identity with a picture of some fucking elite pen that he had. Whichever one's the father, I think Jim Watkins is the father. He's got an obsession with pens. He collects pens. He has a fucking show all about his special pens.
I'm not going to lie. When you said pens, I thought you meant Mike Pence. Because
No,
I
no.
didn't hear you properly.
Like fountain pens and pens.
So do you like the documentary based on the individual research that you've done?
So far, it's informative. But
they're releasing it like as an episode base, not like per month. Okay, not like
that's what I said. So
drop.
far, what I watched of it, I made it through episode 2, and they had brought up the pens, which is something I already knew about because there's a podcast called Q Clarence.
Okay.
That goes through a lot of the history of Q, and he's kind of hypothesizing, and he came to the Watson.
I just don't understand how I can't believe how large this movement has grown. I know we hadn't really discussed them in detail since. I think not only that,
Trumpism.
but I think Trumpism, because it exploded even more with the election fraud. The election fraud. This was stolen from us. I think it really grew from that because there was a lot more.
It grew from fucking COVID. It grew from everybody being stuck in their houses, nothing to fucking do, no work. They had their computer. They were scared, and QAnon gave them hope of this is just a hoax. That's where
Plandemic shit.
Yeah, and all of that because they had all this fucking time, and then at that point, that's when they got. I mean, they were already Trump supporters, but they drew in a lot more Trump supporters because of COVID and that time off, and it was planned. They absolutely had people going in they called them. They were super soldiers. I think they even called themselves that. Go out and pretty much like Christian missionaries, go spread the word. And so they started spamming public comment sections and trying to fucking, I guess, essentially red pill people.
Yeah.
And it worked. It worked fantastically.
It really did.
I mean,
that's why there was a rally to protest the fucking vaccine mandate that didn't even happen. That's not even a thing that we talked about earlier.
So yeah, the vaccine is not mandatory.
No.
Just us rational citizens are getting it.
Well, some employers actually can. Some employers can require
employers,
that.
I
think hospitals have.
Schools may be able to, and they likely will. They can't because they aren't approved for kids yet. So colleges can.
But they're employees. So the school can require their employees, their teachers to be.
Yes. Right. But the closest thing that I've heard of is companies doing a passport type thing where you have to prove that you've been vaccinated before you can come to establishments. But that's still not mandatory. But that's that establishment, But there's also I don't know if an establishment can do that. Because you're requiring to see somebody's medical records,
right? I don't think that's the thing, but I think employers can require their employees.
They can,
right?
Yeah.
So, and that's what because everyone's an employee. I mean, unless you're one of the small business, the tiny fraction of percentage population that's a business owner, most of us are employees.
I don't know. Is there anything else medical that other than hospitals, which that makes sense to have them get vaccinated. Military, you have to get vaccinated, but what civilian, regular people job requires
hospitals are civilian.
Yeah, but it's kind of different.
But they're still private. They're still private entities. So I think. I mean, I may have to do a correction next week because do a quick Google search later, but I think they can.
Child care facilities require their workers to be TB tested and get vaccines.
But if they weren't fed this horrific misinformation about the Bill Gates 5G vaccine, I know we've all been vaccinated, and I've only seen a few Windows pop-ups in my head a few times since then. So it's fine.
I have 6G on my phone now.
Oh, nice, good. I've had to close out a few Windows pop-ups in my head a few times. Asking me to reboot, but other than that, I've been fine. But no, it's all this misinformation that not only do they not want to get the vaccine, but now they're vocally protesting.
They're trying to get other people to not that's the thing. It's fine if you know what, you don't want to take the vaccine.
If you want to die of COVID, go ahead.
No, but I have arguments about that though, because there's people that are immunocompromised that cannot, and some some asshole over here who's just the 5G vaccine, I'm not getting it, and they can spread it to them.
Didn't we get in a whole conversation at the Ask
meetup
about how this vaccine's different than the others? so it can pose less. So it's this
It's mRNA, messenger RNA. So it's not. So a lot of traditional vaccines introduce basically a version of that virus. You develop antibodies, is what I understand. And this one just uses what's called a breakthrough kind of technology called messenger RNA. It does not introduce the COVID vaccine or the COVID virus into your body. It just, develops the antibodies to either A, resist contracting it, or B, if you do contract it, because there are some people who still get COVID with the vaccine, but they don't get fucking sick. I saw 100
people got in Washington.
But I bet you watch it, none of them will develop any kind of serious.
One single person, and I don't think it was here in the U.S. Maybe. A friend of mine dug this up. Where like one single person has died, but they were like fucking 87 years old and had
statistics too.
Yeah, they had a lot of other health conditions, so it kind of that's understandable.
You're gonna give millions of people something without one.
Well, let's talk about the AstraZeneca vaccine, because over 2 million people were administered those doses. 7 people developed blood clots, and they stopped giving those out. I'm like, that's 0.0000213% of the population that developed blood clots versus saving lives. I mean, it is, again, we said statistics. A very, very small, tiny fractional percentage may develop complications, may still get COVID, may even die from COVID still. Then this is science. The science behind this isn't 100%, but it's going to be damn good enough to get herd immunity and get lives back to normal and prevent more deaths. And the sad thing about,
I'm sure COVID's here to stay in some form, though. Like I said,
it's just like the cold.
The new flu.
I think so too. But the sad thing is that when COVID really started spreading rapidly across the United States, the White House put out a devastating report that said they expect up to 200,000 deaths from this, and we've blown way past that. And a lot of that's because no one followed the science, no one followed the guidelines. Governors, our local governor, wrestler Glenn Jacobs.
You mean mayor?
Mayor, wrestler Glenn Jacobs.
Wrestle mayor, yeah.
Wrestle mayor, like he's against masks, and he has been.
Oh yeah, I mean he's a complete Trump supporter. He was on Parler. He's the libertarian wrestle mayor. He's one of the ones behind a lot of the money being funneled to these, friends to build things. Like he's running for a second term too. So
fuck's sake, he's gonna get elected because of
I mean, I remember a lot of people when he first ran were like, "Ha ha, wrestle mayor," and I'm like, "No, this is serious. That's a major position. That's mayor." And they're like, "Ha ha ha, wrestle mayor," and like now I'm just gonna be like, "No, it's not funny anymore. Go fuck yourself, you libertarians."
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is ACAB of the week.
All right, guys. So in lieu of our normal ACAB of the week, where we discuss a recent event, this week, big news: the Derek Chauvin trial. This is entering day 4 over the death of George Floyd in May of last year. Derek Chauvin is being charged with 3 different charges: murder 1, murder 2, and murder 3. And I did learn that in order to be convicted with a criminal charge in Minnesota, it has to be a unanimous jury. Today, big news, we record on Thursdays, the key witness for the prosecution has pled the 5th. I'm not sure that's going to matter too much. I mean, I know he's going to avoid that because he doesn't want to self-incriminate. I'm not sure what involvement he had with any criminal activity. But there has been a lot of emotional testimony from some of the witnesses, the firefighter, although the defense kind of tore into the firefighter. Did you hear that?
I watched a little bit. I feel like we should go back to the beginning of the trial where they were talking to the girl who filmed it, which that one, I mean, she was basically just saying what she saw, but then there was the MMA fighter who was the one like telling him like, that's a blood choke, you need to let go. He's over there just like screaming at the cops to stop. And the Chauvin's defense attorneys was like, is it true that you were getting angrier and angrier as time goes on? Because I think the defense is trying to say that the cops couldn't really do their job because of the angry crowd that was around them, which it wasn't that big of a crowd. But the guy's like, when he asked, were you getting angrier and angrier? He's like, I was getting more pleading for life. You know, like the situation kept getting more and more urgent. So yes, I got more escalated, but like the cop's reading through this stuff and he's like, did you call him a bum? Like, yeah, I call him a bum. Did you call him a bum 13 times? The guy on the stand just kind of grins. He's like, is that how many you counted? It's like,
that's great. That's fantastic.
I guess I said it 13 times. And then he's like, did you call him a pussy ass bitch? He's like, yeah, I called him that. Like, that was pretty entertaining. But then
that was entertaining, but a lot of it, unfortunately, was like just kind of heartbreaking because you're seeing these people who are reliving those moments. They'd watch someone literally die in front of them, and now they're seeing this graphic footage because the prosecution's doing their job. They're convincing the jury that this cop murdered George Floyd, and they're showing these videos from different angles over and over again, and hearing these emotional. They're doing their job. I have concerns when they bring out the medical experts because they're going to. I've read several news reports that the defense's main strategy at this point going forward is going to convince the jury that he died due to other things, the fentanyl, the fentanyl levels in his body, the other drugs. I understand where our position is,
right?
But that's they had to convince a unanimous jury.
There's things that aren't stacking up right already with that. I did not watch today. I'm going off of feedback from people. I'm in a group chat where people were discussing what was going on. One of the things that were mentioned is that when they went to go put an IV in George Floyd, that they had to go into his bone. What the fuck does this even mean? Okay, first of all, what they're trying to do with the IV, though, is they're trying to say they were treating him for an overdose. But the fucking, I can't think of the name right now of that overdose drug, naproxen. It has, Narcan.
Narcan?
Yeah, or Narcan. So it's either like goes into your muscle or it's a navel. It's not going to go into a vein. So why the fuck were they trying to put an IV in him? Like, it's like there's weird shit. He's already fucking dead. You don't use an IV with fluids to resuscitate somebody.
Right.
Like, it's just weird shit that they're already talking about.
Let's discuss the aid. Now I want to go back to the firefighter, the off-duty firefighter who was there, who was pleading, for the officers to provide aid, screaming on the side, saying like this, check him for a pulse. And they did. Did you hear what they said to him, or what they said to her? She's like, you're a firefighter. Not to fucking interfere.
Yeah,
essentially.
Yeah.
You know better than to fucking interfere.
If you were a firefighter, you know better than to interfere.
Right, I think right. And so that was actually really good. To have that footage included, because that just shows that these officers had no regard for that life whatsoever. Mm-mm. Not one bit. And aside from kneeling on his fucking neck while he was not moving, I mean, he was
dead, and they were still kneeling on his neck.
Yeah, he I mean, that's what she's like. I was assessing his level of consciousness, and I could already see that like he was out of it, And I think they even got into like being able to tell like drug or other things, and she was saying like, I can tell it wasn't drug. I can tell it was because of the cop and his position on his body.
It should be open and closed. I mean, he was not fighting back. He was not a threat. Like
he was already handcuffed.
I'm saying all they have to do is convince even one juror.
Yeah, and that juror better be fucking hung.
Yeah, it will be. Well,
like I said,
it's funny you said it because it will be a hung
we better
jury.
get into 12 Angry Men shit, and they lock that shit down and fucking shame whoever racist piece of shit.
Well, they're really particular about the filming of the trial. Have you seen that or heard them talking about it?
I have not.
They will not show the jurors in any way. The jurors have to go a certain route in and out because, like, there's a black line that they're not allowed to cross. There's a camera behind them to get view of the camera, but they will not show these jurors because they don't want people contacting them. They don't want, but eventually it doesn't matter. If a juror, like if one juror lets him off, people are going to find out who that one juror was.
Well, it's not going to let him off. It will be a mistrial.
Right. Well, that's letting him off.
No, he could be charged again.
Yeah.
Or they will have another trial.
Okay.
In most cases, not all, but in most cases, prosecutors are allowed to continue with their case. And I can't imagine with the climate of the United States that if there were a mistrial, that they would not proceed with a new.
There's a mistrial. The city's probably going to burn again, and they'll have to.
I imagine so. But I did watch a little bit of it yesterday, and I'm glad I'm not watching a whole lot of it because that is some depressing shit. I was listening to the store clerk who took the $20 bill from George Floyd, and how he went outside when he saw the commotion once the officers had him, because he was inside for a while and then he saw like this large gathering of people out there. So he goes out there and he starts recording, and the prosecutor asked him, what did you do? He's like, well, I started taking video. He's like, do you have that video now? I was like, no, I deleted it. He was like, why delete it? He's like, well, when they put him in the ambulance, he went this direction, and we all know the fastest way to any hospital is in this direction, so I knew I just watched someone die, and he just deleted the video. And I was like, that's, you imagine that, like, you've seen that, like, and you were a part of that. You called the police because your manager told you to, and as a result of that, you watched a man die in front of you.
There's more to that too. So apparently, the kid went out there to try to get him because the store had a policy that if you accept a counterfeit bill, that it could be docked from your pay.
I've heard of things like that before.
Yeah, that's illegal.
Yeah.
So that store should have some heat on him now for having that policy.
Probably not.
But yeah,
but he's not.
That's why he called the cops. I think he said he didn't want to call the cops, but he was worried about his pay getting docked and all of this. And it's like, he didn't even know if it was counterfeit. The kid didn't know. He was fairly new, so he's like, I was just doing what other people were doing and holding it up and, to the light. He's like, I didn't know what to look for. And I don't know how it ended up, like, if somebody else saw it and said it was counterfeit, but, he starts freaking out, and he's like, I didn't want to call the cops, but he felt he had to. Imagine how that kid's, like, feeling now.
Yeah.
It's just, it's heartbreaking. It was the first time, during the trial on Monday, was the first time I actually watched all 9 minutes and 29 seconds of that video.
Oh, really?
I
never watched the whole thing either.
I had seen a good bit, and I mostly had it on by background noise, but by the end of it, I was like fucking bawling. Yeah. It's just hearing everybody in that crowd begging for somebody to give him medical attention.
Yeah, they rendered no aid.
Like none at all. And it's just, you have all these, and they're like, this angry crowd around him. These people, all they fucking were wanting from him is for them to check him and make sure he's still alive. And they weren't angry. They were terrified that this man was dying. It's
right.
just, it's so fucked up.
I will say, though, that I did read a news article about that off-duty firefighter apparently got into an argument with the defense attorney, who was, I guess, pretty good in his line of questioning, his cross-examination, and they had to remove the jury just so the judge can bitch at her, telling her not to argue with the court, not to argue with counsel. So the defense, I mean, he's doing his job. The defense attorney is doing his job. I'm not 100% sure that this is a slam dunk case, because when it gets to the medical experts, that's where they're going to really draw the line and sow some seeds of doubt. That's all it has to do, is just sow some seeds of doubt for for there to be not a conviction or at least a hung trial. I hope not for the city's sake, because it will burn. But also because justice needs to be served, right?
Is there any fucking justice in America?
Right. There really, I don't believe there is justice in America.
No. And that's why that's why we say that sometimes, as Al says, sometimes cities needs to burn, because when there's no justice, what are you supposed to do? Sit back and be like, "Ah, shucks. Oh well, maybe next time there'll be some justice." There needs to be consequences.
Yeah, we're all hopeful for conviction. And don't be disheartened. I do listen to a legal podcast. If he's convicted on murder, even murder 2 or murder 3, they're basically the same kind of sentence length. So if you hear, if people come out and saying he only got murder 3, like, calm them down. Like, it's a conviction and it's gonna be the same kind of sentencing. Now, if they still want to burn shit, I mean, hey, all cops are bastards. So, but I don't know. I'm a little concerned based on what's yet to come.
No, I mean,
because right now it's emotional, but then it'll go to rational when it comes to the science and data that they're going to present. And I don't know the jury's kind of as a good mixed jury, but
I figured honestly both him and Kyle Rittenhouse would get off because of just one. I mean, who doesn't fucking know their
They're both
stories?
Minnesota, are they not? Or is one?
I think Rittenhouse is
Wisconsin. I think that's okay.
Yeah, because
it's very. I'm more certain about. I'm more hopeful that Chauvin gets convicted than I am Rittenhouse at this point. But I'm pleasantly surprised.
Before we wrap up, I want to go back to something kind of funny. So, reading this headline that Gaetz says he had conversations with Fox and OAN about possible jobs. A Fox spokesperson said in response that no one with any level of authority has had any conversations with him, and we have no interest in hiring him. OAN's founder said he's not really hiring for shows right now.
I heard about him looking for OAN or Newsmax. Well, what about Newsmax? I thought he reached out to them too, because he knows he's about to not be reelected.
Oh, he does.
Or he may even be kicked off committees, which hopefully, obviously.
Or
even indicted. Fuck's sake, get indicted on sex trafficking. Go to fucking prison.
That's what needs to happen. I hope he doesn't get a chance to run for anything again. He doesn't need it.
I hope he just slowly fades away to the awful existence of the rest of his life.
Hey, did you hear about that? The guy, he's in some prison, but he's now like beaten 3, or I think there was one day that he beat 3 child molesters to death with like his cane or his walker or some shit.
Wait, he has a cane or a walker?
Yes, it's this old guy, and he fucking beat him to death.
No, I mean, statistically, child molesters or pedophiles are more likely to be targeted by other prisoners for their other crime.
I hope Gaetz goes to prison for it.
Right. All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to wrap us up for episode 9 of Apostates on the Fringe. I want to thank you all for joining us again this week. As always, you can find us on our social media. And if you would like links to the articles or contact the show, you can visit apostatepod.com. Please consider leaving us a 5-star review everywhere you can and sharing the show out to your friends. And we will see you all next week. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you all very much.
Apostates on the Fringe. Apostates on the Fringe.
The views and opinions of the hosts of Apostates on the Fringe do not represent the views and opinions of the Atheist Society of Knoxville. For links to all our musical contributors, go to apostatepod.com and check the About Us page. A big thank you to Michael Scott Arden, who allows the show to use his full catalog.